Chapter 1 The Star Sweepers. Nightfall leaked into the warren, cold and grey. Illyri tensed in the gloom, his long tail curled around his body. Lichen crinkled as other dinosaurs nestled into the neighboring burrows. How long would it take his herd to fall asleep? As Illyri drew a sharp breath, nerves tingled down from his grey face to his speckled legs. His feathers prickled down his spine. His herd lived in a complex web of tunnels they dug, sheltered from enemy troops and wild carnivores. But right now, the last place Illyri wanted to be stuck was underground. He had plans for tonight. Be still. Be silent. Illyri repeated the mantra in his head, counting the minutes. Around the corner, his father gave a muffled snort. A snore. Or was that just wishful thinking? If Illyri couldn't sneak out tonight, he wouldn't get another chance. His homeland, the Mountain Kingdom, was at war with the Prairie Alliance. The enemy's Triceratops army was on the march, and there were rumors of an ankylosaur siege at the edge of the kingdom. Whenever the war flared up, young Oricodromus, like Illyri, were confined to the warren, all the entrances guarded. If he didn't go tonight, it would be too late. Now or never. Illyri rose, muscles clenching as he struggled not to crunch his lichen nest. He tiptoed on his hind legs, balanced by his sweeping tail. His claws were tools for digging tunnels, or tonight, for sneaking out of them. He crept forward, throat tight as he passed each sleeping nook. His herdmates curled in their nests, feathers rustling as they dreamed. A carved stone marked the heir's cavern, where his brother Agostron slept. Agostron was the perfect soldier, strong, sensible, and fiercely patriotic to the Mountain Kingdom. Beside him, Illyri was nothing. A disappointment. That was the word his father had used. He'd spoken it in hushed whispers when he thought Illyri was out of earshot. Nothing like his brother, I'm afraid. A disappointment, that one. Illyri's throat clenched. He didn't care. He didn't need approval. Who cared about the wise ones anyway? All they did was dig holes, obsessing about tunnel width and burrow depth. Illyri had other plans for his life. One day, he would journey beyond the warren. He would explore faraway lands, collecting tales of their herds. He would venture where the clouds swelled and ebbed, teasing him toward the horizon, where the sky wasn't dirt, but starlight. Outside, the air was tangy, a stark contrast to the cool damp of the warren. The breeze bristled sharp with grit. Ash storms were rare nowadays, 50 years after the fallen star had struck, but they did sometimes occur. Just dirt, Illyri told himself. The Deadlands weren't burning tonight, and the distant fire peak wasn't ablaze. His family's warren lay deep within the Mountain Kingdom. Even if the Prairie Alliance sent a scouting party, it would be easy to hear a gang of ankylosaurs or triceratops smashing through the undergrowth. His hornheads weren't known exactly for their subtlety. Instead, he feared the carnivores. The carnivores held no allegiances. They belonged to no kingdoms or armies. They lived alone, and they killed alone, just like the pterosaur that had snatched Illyri's mother, plucking her from the broken ridge when Illyri and Agustron were still in their eggshells. And so, Illyri crept in silence, his claws scrabbling in time with the pitter-patter of his heart. Crunch. Illyri froze. He whipped around, scanning the undergrowth for signs of movement. Crunch. There it was again, a claw step in the dark. If a raptor lunged from the brush, Illyri wouldn't stand a chance. Carnivores didn't care that he was a sworn citizen of the Mountain Kingdom. To them, he was just a snack, a trifle to crush between their teeth. He couldn't move. He couldn't breathe. Relief. Illyri? A voice whispered. Relief roiled through him, wild and giddy. Then came exasperation as the speaker prowled into a patch of moonlight, and Illyri recognized his brother. Augustron clutched a precious star fleck in his claw, using its crystalline shine to cast a path between the trees. Illyri forced a cool smirk, concealing his moment of panic. "Good evening, brother dearest. Nice night for a stroll." "You're a fool," Augustron hissed, scurrying forward. He loomed above Illyri, making the most of his height and heft. "Do you have any idea how much trouble you're in?" "Only if you tattle on me." "Flaming feathers!" Augustron swore. "Watch it, princeling," Illyri threw him a grin. "The wise ones don't approve of cursing. What would they say if they heard their future leader using such language?" Augustron's tail gave an unhappy flick. "You've got to come back. It's too dangerous to be out at night." Illyri stood his ground. "I can't miss tonight, you know that. It'll be a whole year before they're back again." Augustron groaned. "By the stars, you got less brains than a stegosaurus. I should have known this'd be about them. Hey, I've known some perfectly nice stegosaurus." "That's not the point." Illyri turned from his brother, resuming his trek through the undergrowth. "You're welcome to tag along if you like." "Tag along?" Augustron hurried after him. "I'm not going to tag along, Illyri. I'm going to fulfill my duties as heir. The safety of this herd is my responsibility." Was Illyri imagining it, or was there a cold undercurrent in Augustron's tone? His voice stiffened on the word heir, as if to remind Illyri of his superior rank. "I'm your brother," Illyri pointed out, "not just a herd member. I won't show favor to relatives. You keep telling yourself that, but we all know the truth. Deep down, you want to see the show too." "Your skull is overstuffed with daydreams," Augustron snapped. "It's time to take your responsibilities seriously." "I do," Illyri said. "Doesn't mean I can't take my daydreams seriously too." Augustron gave an irritable huff. As the brothers padded down toward the broken ridge, the breeze grew stronger. It blew from the Deadlands, and even now it carried the reek of decay. 50 years ago, the fallen star had brought death and despair, ash and toxic rain. Thousands of dinosaurs had died on impact. Millions had starved as forests withered and seas boiled. A strange mist had encircled the world, staining its victims with starlight. But some survived. A few rare herds dwelled in the sheltered ravines or found hidden canyons where the forests still grew. When the dust settled, the true impact of the fallen star had emerged. Although the star mist had faded, the surviving dinosaurs had changed. Their minds grew alert, rich with songs and thoughts and language. They learned to speak, to dream, to share their stories, to trade resources and form alliances, to wage war. Augustron was a born warrior, intensely loyal to his herd and kingdom. But from the day he'd hatched, Illyri had been weaker than his peers. As the runt of the herd, he barely reached his brother's shoulders. Illyri was no warrior. He dreamed of becoming a storyteller, of traveling the world and collecting legends of distant lands, of bringing those stories back to the Mountain Kingdom. He would share breathtaking tales of trickery and bravery, cleverness and heroism, while his herdmates listened in awe. But in wartime, such dreams cracked like eggshells. Illyri was doomed to be a digger, a disposable soldier who scrabbled at the dirt to aid in the war effort. Unless he ran away, he would spend the rest of his life gouging trenches on the battlefield, his hopes and feathers stained with mud. Just a disappointment. But tonight, Illyri took the lead. He scurried along the broken ridge, which capped the peak of a narrow crag. When the trail plunged into darkness on either side, Illyri used his tail for balance. Scraggly trees rose from the edges, painting creases in the night sky. "No need to run," Augustron huffed, bustling after him. "And I should go first. I'm the one with the star fleck." Illyri glanced at the light in his brother's claw. Star flecks were precious fragments of the fallen star. When they burned, they increased the strength and speed of their bearer. It was wasteful to burn a fleck tonight, but Augustrin could afford to fritter away its power. As future prince of the Broken Ridge, he had a steady supply from those hoping to win his favor. Beside him, Illyri walked in shadow. Beyond the ridge, they climbed a gravel slope. Pebbles skittered, but their claws gave them grip and leverage. One at a time, the brothers scrambled up to the southern lookout. "We made it," Illyri puffed, "just in time for the show." He hurried to the edge of the lookout, his eyes widening as he drank in the view. From here, the whole of the Cretaceous seemed his to claim. Rangy cliffs protruded beneath him like the teeth of a long-dead carnivore. Illyri drew a deep breath, tasting the night. This was his home, his world, the open sky littered with stars, and the endless plains beyond, not the damp, stuffy old warren. "I don't like this." Augustrin's voice was a growl. He clenched his claw around the star fleck, cutting off its light. "We're too exposed here. It's too open." Illyria ignored him, focusing on the sweep of the landscape below. The mountain kingdom trailed down from cliffs into foothills. The kingdom was a knot of peaks and valleys. Peaks and vales, home to herds of iguanodons, stegoceras, Orictodremus. Far below, the cold canyon split the landscape in half, slithering to the southern horizon. West of the canyon, foothills melted into a patchwork of scrub and gorges, home to the Prairie Alliance. Out on the plains, Triceratops and Ankylosaurs banded together, waging war against the Mountain Kingdom in an attempt to claim its fertile land. On the prairie, a dark mass was gathering. Illyri couldn't make out any details, but it wasn't hard to recognize the shape of a mustering army. His insides tightened. It was true then. The Prairie Alliance planned a fresh attack. Every siege, the Alliance claimed more land. Every battle, their onslaught pushed further. One by one, the foothills fell into enemy claws, but the war was reaching a tipping point. Day by day, the number of soldiers dwindled. No one admitted it out loud, but Illyri had heard the rumors. The elders spoke of it in hushed tones, whispering their worries in the dark of the warren. Sooner or later, the war must end. One kingdom would win, and the other would lose. And when that happened, King Toriv of the Prairie was determined to claim these peaks as his own. In silence, Illyri refocused on the canyon's east side. There, the view held something far more sinister than an army. "The Deadlands," he whispered. "Do you think—" "The migration's starting," Augustrin cut in. "Since you went to all the effort of sneaking out, I'd assume you'd like to actually see it?" His mouth curled. "Or has your attention span shrunk to match your height?" Illyri whirled back, stung by the jab. Growing up, he'd always liked to think of Augustrin's insults as brotherly teasing, but recently the heir's words had sharpened, as if something acidic had seeped into the mockery. Then he heard them. Footsteps. Dozens of footsteps, creaking like mountains. With a rush of anticipation, Illyri pushed Augustrin's insult from his mind. He gazed out into the cold canyon, searching for the source of the noise. The star sweepers were coming. Clouds shifted, spilling moonlight into the canyon. Illyri's insides flipped as light fell across their bodies, huge and heaving, their necks as tall as trees and their tails as long as rivers. "It's them!" He leaned forward in excitement. "Flaming feathers, it's them!" "Now you watch your language," Augustrin muttered. The final herd of sauropods, the largest dinosaurs left alive, lumbered along in the night. These bards and poets traveled up and down the canyon each year, spreading tales from the farthest corners of Cretaceous. Wise and ancient, the giant sauropods didn't care for petty wars or border squabbles. They simply traveled, year after year, decade after decade. They were living, walking stories. According to legend, they had swept the stars across the skies, using their elongated necks to scatter specks of light across Cretaceous. In Illyria's wildest dreams, he made the journey with them. How long do you reckon they'll stay this year? Illyria breathed. Not long, Augustrin said. Not with another battle brewing. But no one would dare attack them. They've got the favor of the stars on their side. Doesn't matter. They don't like violence. Illyria nodded. His brother was right, of course. Sometimes the sauropods stayed in the lower foothills for a few days, grazing in preparation for their journey north. But this year they wouldn't linger. The giants would continue their migration, passing through the mountain kingdom onto the unknown north. By tomorrow, they'd likely be gone. Well, we saw them, Augustrin said dismissively. One last time at least. Time to head home. Illyria threw him a sharp look. Don't talk like that. Like what? One last time. Like they're about to die out or something. Augustrin shrugged. Their herd shrinks every year, and I don't see any hatchlings. Do you? But you're too soft-hearted, Illyria. Grow up and face reality. Illyria glared, preparing a retort. Of course, countless herds and species had died since the fallen star, but this was different. These were star sweepers. They couldn't just die. It would be like a story dying. Before he could speak, a sharp cry stabbed the night. Illyria flinched, tossing his head skyward to spot the source of the screech. Dark wings blotted the stars. "Run!" Augustrin screamed. "Run, Illyria!" For a moment, Illyria stared. Then he tore after his brother, skittering down the slope in a churn of grime and gravel. Dust flew into his face, and he spluttered as his claws scrabbled for purchase. High above, the pterosaur dove.